All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 41 of the Hideout. We are back after a couple weeks gone. Really, really excited to be back. A lot of interesting stuff going on in the Satoshi verse. And we have an awesome panel for you guys today talking about the metaverse and gaming as always. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Frontera. I am one of the founders and the CEO of Apollo Entertainment, the studio behind the Satoshiverse and the Satoshi's Legions game. So super excited to have an awesome panel here. I'm actually going to pin a tweet to the top of this space for those of you who don't know about the Satoshiverse. This is a good link to check out, but I don't want to spend too much time talking about us and what we're building, because our goal today is to have an awesome conversation about the different projects on the panel and get some awesome insights as we go along. So if you want to check out and learn about the Satoshiverse, we've been around for about 3 years. Check out the pinned tweet. But what we'll do is we will jump into introductions of our panelists to start. So if you guys could just give quick introduction of yourselves, what you're building, maybe what brought you to the space, and then we'll roll into some questions for everybody and some individual questions. But great to have you here. Why don't we start with Project Lambo? Could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Firstly, thank you very much for the opportunity and great to be here amongst this audience. My name's Funsho Ajibade, and I'm the CEO and founder of Project Lambo. And just to give you a little bit of background, the reason that I got involved in this space, which is close to 7 years ago now, was seeing the monumental rise of Bitcoin. I've always been a bit of a gamer, a bit of a tech geek. Absolutely love anything new and exciting that I think has potential to change the world. And for me, Bitcoin definitely had that. How I've seen things change and evolve, it's just unbelievable to see the ecosystems that have been built. And one thing that I've always had some involvement with in this space is education. So I've been helping people understand more about crypto, how they can get involved, what good projects look like. And off the back of that, just had a passion to build my own project, which is a Web3 GameFi project that we believe is going to dramatically change the way that gaming will be seen. And I'm very excited to explain more to you guys about that later in this space.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for joining. Excited to get into it with you. Why don't we keep going with UC?
Hi everyone. Thank you, Satoshiverse, for inviting me here. My name is Yusi. I'm the head of communications in Swaga. Actually, I've been in the space for around 2.5 years, started from a crypto trader and also an NFT holder, and then slightly got into more developer side and joined Swaga. So basically, we're now currently developing and finalizing our metaverse and also the gameplay. Hopefully, we could officially launch the product next year, Q1 or Q2.
Amazing, amazing. So could you tell us a little bit more about Swago, what you guys are building?
Yeah. So we are actually aiming to create an innovative entertainment experience that caters to the youthful demography. And our range of products consists of three different areas. The first one is a virtual fashion social metaverse called Swaga. So we try to create an entertaining environment for fashion enthusiasts and also an immersive community engagement venue for business and projects in Web2 and also Web3. The second product we have is our original fashion IP. It's called Onimaru. Actually, the Onimaru already has its physical figure collectibles and also had an exhibition in Tokyo, Shibuya last year, and also has collaborated with around 16 high-profile IPs and also brands. And also the 3D model of Onimaru is perfectly ready to go to different platforms and metaverses or GameFi to swag. And then right now we're also developing a dance battle game called Whack Dance. We all gonna dance. So that's the game that we are going to that's going to be our main game in the metaverse as well. So it's like a dance PvP game where the players will listen to music and also choose their favorite music as the dance background music, and then hit the right rhythm through pressing arrow keys, enter keys, space keys to compete for a higher score. And just to make the game more fun, we are right now partnering with Sony to use their mocap device, which is called Mokabi. So if the player wear the mocap devices, then they could, like invite their friends and so families to the physical world in the real life to started to dance together and physically. So this is the part that we wanted to like, because we want our players not only they could play from computers and all laptops, but they can also enjoy the time in the real world and also with friends do more like socialized part of the game. So yeah, so this is pretty much what we do.
Amazing. Well, I love that blend of physical and digital, and I know we're going to get into that a bit more later. So thank you for joining. And then finally, we have Battle of Gods. Could you give us a quick introduction and tell us about yourself?
Sure. My name is Danielle. I'm the founder of Battle of Gods, which is an incursion of a board game to blockchain. So we can say Web 0, if I might, all the way to Web 3. It's Web 3's biggest mythoverse, 999 characters from 18 mythologies. We haven't reached those numbers yet, but we are launching this October 5 to 8 on Essen, the biggest board game fair in the world. Our physical game called Under Gods, will be followed up by Gods Above, and finally concluded with Gods Inside. These three games kind of fuel our digital verse, which is called Battle of Gods. So that's it. Thank you for having me here tonight. Big shout out to the other listeners and speakers. I'm humbled because I see so many amazing projects. I'm just glad to be in the panel, and I hope I can do my contribution to make it special. Thank you, Satoshiverse and Spencer, for arranging things. That's it.
Amazing. Well, glad to have you on and contributing to the conversation. All right, so just a reminder, in case any of you want to pin anything to the top of the spaces, please feel free so that people can better access and learn about your projects. If you have any kind of trailer or announcement type of tweet, please feel free to post it so that everyone will know where to find you, especially if your project's Twitter isn't actually in here, so that people know where to find the project. So please feel free to do that. All right, so the last one that we'll introduce is our very own Spencer, and then he'll take it away with the questions. Spencer, go ahead.
Thank you, Nick. So my name is Spencer Vogel. I've been working with Apollo and the Satoshiverse for the last couple of years now, helping out on the business and strategy side of things, and I host our spaces every week. Just getting into the format for today. So we're going to start out with a question for everyone in the group, and I'll call on someone to start. And then from there, everybody feel free to jump in and just join in the conversation and try to make it fluid. And then we'll move into some individual questions for every project here. And then at the end, if we have some time, we'll get into some more everyone questions. And then also, if you're listening, make sure to stay until the end of the space. We'll be doing a giveaway for one of our Satoshiverse NFT collectibles, which will allow you to play the game right now in our alpha. So getting into the first question here, and maybe Funsho, you can start us off and answer this one first. So if you could take any real world or Web2 experience and emulate it in a metaverse environment, what would it be?
That's a good question. I think I would look at something like social impacts, if I'm honest. Some Web3 games are kind of focusing on sustainability and social impact, and much like Project Lambo is, but they're often embedded in the game's architecture, like carbon offsetting for transactions, for example, or charitable contributions as part of the gameplay. And I think what's exciting for me is some of the advancements that we're now seeing that will allow us to have a lot more capability with what Web3 can bring to the table to allow collaboration, partnerships, charitable organizations, education, and so much more to be fluid, and there for everyone to be able to contribute however they want to using cryptocurrencies, even using fiat as well. I think that's a major thing for me that I'm looking forward to for the future.
Yeah, I love the idea of having kind of the sustainability, initiatives in the metaverse and that kind of playing into real world. So I think there's so much you can do creatively with that, right? I had a buddy who was working on a project, for example, to do real life tracking in the rainforest, and your NFT would reflect a certain section of the rainforest, and the proceeds would go to helping the rainforest. So I think there's so much that can be done in the sustainability sector, as well as educating people on some of the problems that if they aren't able to go to a place, may not be able to see the impact of those issues. So I think that's a great use to kind of put people in places where they may not often be, to help them realize some of the world's problems. I think for me, in addition to those sorts of things, I've spent a lot of time over the last several years going to physical art galleries, and I think the experience of going to a physical art gallery is really cool. I mean, I enjoy looking at art, and I enjoy looking at still 2D art on walls. I think there's a certain amount that you can't replicate that in the digital space, but I would love to see either virtual or augmented reality used to really augment the kind of cross between physical and digital in the art viewing space. So whether that's a fully immersive artistic experience in VR, or even just having AR, augmentation to a physical experience. If you're going to, a gallery or what have you, having the paintings come to life. I remember one of my first VR experiences was through an app that simulated or I guess recreated a Salvador Dali painting, and it was one of the things that made me really realize kind of the potential of VR as a way of kind of expanding creative ability. And so I know we've dedicated resources as a studio to starting to create those experiences with some of the, top artists in the space. But I think that, I think about what if Dali was around today and had the capabilities of VR. And I think we're going to see the modern day Dali's, creating these surrealistic experiences, whether in VR or in the metaverse or what have you, that just kind of goes so far beyond what can be achieved on a canvas. So that's what I'm most excited about, and I'm excited to see as we move forward.
Daniel or UC, do you have any ideas?
Yeah, actually, I just saw recently this. I'm sure you know about this band called Affix Twins, and they did this amazing augmented reality interaction with the vinyl. It's just something else. I think for those who are truly creative, if they get their hands on this technology and become more and more comfortable, you'll see more impressive depictments of what really our imagination can bring into the sphere. Anyway, one of the things that I'm kind of looking forward is that I see that many projects, there's many cool ideas. Everybody has their own verse, right? I'm kind of looking forward for the moment where they really connect, because until then we cannot really call this a metaverse. It makes no sense. It's just individual um, projects or games that hopefully, and I think soon enough, when we get rid of this question of which blockchain are you guys developing, this is a non-issue, right? But I'm kind of looking forward for this connection between projects, because that's really what's going to consolidate the Web3 and make it a real metaverse reality. In a way, well, we're doing it on Phantasmal blockchain. You had Dr. Funk here, 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago. I was in India at the time, and that's how I first caught attention on Satoshiverse. They're very responsible blockchain, layer one, the very low fees. But more important is if we kind of get rid of the labels and the gatekeeping that happens everywhere in every technology or industry, I think everybody will be a lot better. So the sooner we start collaborating with each other, the better. But I mean, let me reach out here a little bit. Satoshi, do you want to do a collab? And well, I'm going to push it to Phantasma. We can be elsewhere, where we have our mythology cards mixed up with yours or any other project and make it a booster, right? And you open a booster and then suddenly you get cards from many verses. I think that's a beautiful and easy way, with a certain strategy attached to it, to actually start bridging between the projects. Right now, I'm in the Philippines. It was a last minute thing. I was also with Dr. Funk from Fantasma in Token 2049. I had like a side event where I was speaking, and last minute, very irresponsible of me, I just said, okay, let's see what's happening here in the scene. And I'm telling you, the spirit here, the spirits are very high. People are very um, into it. And not just people, the government. They're really moving towards the space, you understand? And I don't want to comment on the United States because I don't live there. I'm based in Bangkok for 9 years now. I just think that over there where you guys are, well, some of you, you're kind of pushing away all these initiatives, not just finance, but gaming. I mean, they're all on the run because they're afraid someone will make money out of it. And for me specifically, it's not really the money making that allows me to be here. It's the act of creating. I don't know about you guys, but I would like to hear your take on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting,
No,
right? Because you have, sorry, go ahead, Project Lambda, jump. I talk a lot, so feel free to jump in. You were gonna say something, I think.
no problem, no problem. I was going to say that you're coming from on this, and I think it's important. And there's so much value that's lost as a result of the way that
Hey, Project Lambo, I don't know if it cut out for everybody, but your sound is cutting out for me. I think and a couple others, so
Yeah, it
I'm
totally
not
cut out at
sure.
this point.
If you can hear us, maybe try rejoining and we'll get you up here again because it sounds like your sound completely cut out. All right, so while we get Project Lambo back up here, kind of just yeah, my take on that. I think that it's interesting, right? Because I think you have a very new environment, and I think that the ethos of blockchain is very libertarian minded. I think it's a beautiful idea, and I think that idea at its core is a great one. I think that obviously when you have a great idea and a new technology, there's abuses of it. There's a lot of real causes, I think, for concern. But I think there's also a lot of regulatory overstepping that occurs as well. And I think that's not just the US. I think there's, everywhere in the world has laws that can be thought to be a little bit closed. I think obviously some areas are more open than others, but I think also that there are financial reasons for that, right? I think there's certain economies that are more protective and certain economies that are more open to try to generate new business. If you kind of watch what's happened in Dubai for the last 5 years, that's a good example of an economy that took on potentially more risk in some of the industries it's allowed in order to grow their economy. Well, I can't vouch for the U.S. Government per se. I have seen, incredible projects coming out of the U.S. and, really doing a lot of big time development on the blockchain gaming sector. So, we're excited to be here. I think it does present certain limitations. I hope more than anything, I hope for regulatory clarity. I was a lawyer before I started doing this, and we have another lawyer as one of our founders. And so, a lot of the time it's not a question of, are the rules too strict? It's a question of, are the rules defined? And I think once we have a defined set of rules, that's going to help us a lot in designing these creative experiences. I do think that there is a certain amount of responsibility that falls on the consumer when interacting with all these different blockchain projects. But I also think that we're still not really at a point where I think it's reasonable to expect your average consumer to be able to fully navigate the blockchain space. So I think it's again, it's a great idea, and I think the UI and the UX has to improve dramatically for us to really have a reasonable expectation that people are going to be able to manage their own finances within the blockchain and stay away from scams and not get hacked and all the things that kind of continue to plague this industry. Putting aside the rug pulls and the companies that market a project and then disappear with your money without you doing anything that's invasive to your wallet. I think that there's still a lot of problems to solve, and I think some governments have potentially been more proactive and even overstepped a bit in trying to solve those problems. And then I think there's a lot of kind of special interests that become at play when a lot of money is there to be made, which we've definitely seen more now, post 2021, 2022, all the lawsuits that are starting to happen. So, without going too deep down a rabbit hole, I think that, there's a lot of opportunity here across the board. I think that we have an incredible chance to work together and collaborate. I think that was the other point you touched on. Collaboration is very front of mind for us. I think it's important, especially given the permanence of the NFT space, for collaborations to be meaningful. And so I think one of the things that when we're thinking about collaborations and what they do, we always want them to be with a purpose and make sure that it's a value add all around. I think that's probably our number one consideration, is that it's just adding value to the space. It's something interesting and something that will persist, right? Especially if there's any kind of money or anything exchanged in a collaborative sense. So I'm really excited for that. I think we're probably quite a bit away from kind of that open metaverse interoperability layer that we hope for and talk about. I think more than the blockchains, I think the standards for 3D assets and game assets need to improve dramatically before we can bring real interoperability between projects. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. And I think just to do a mic check with you, Project Lambo, are you back? Can we hear you? Let's try.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me loud and clear now.
Definitely. Yep. You sound good.
You had something that you wanted to say before you dropped off. I don't know if you still wanted to share that.
Yeah, thank you. All it was, I wanted to touch on what Battle of Gods was speaking about, because it makes a lot of sense to me. I think also listening to what Satoshi Verse is saying as well, there's so much that needs to be learned first before we see the type of world that we're currently envisioning. And that education aspect of that is so important, as is collaboration. And, the interoperability part that you spoke about too is so important. And I feel like as long as there is value being added from lots of different people that are here for the right reasons, we will see that progression continue, because ultimately the technology that is around can be used extremely positively to enhance everyone's current experiences for Web3. And for me personally, one of the things that we're bringing to the table to try and help with the overall NFT marketplace is our end-to-end service, where we're trying to help existing communities that have got NFT art by bringing that NFT art additional utility, by turning that art into playable video game characters that are completely upgradable, creating an economy opportunity for existing communities. So I can see that from the interest we've had. I mean, for example, we had a partnership with Supernormal, one of the biggest NFT brands in Korea. They recently provided artwork to us to turn into a video game character. These are things that communities are starting to get excited about, but we're still a long way away from that entire metaverse that everyone can use and everything just works everywhere seamlessly. It's going to take time, but I think what's most exciting for me is that we're all here and we're all contributing to make it happen today.
Can I say something adding to that? I'm not sure it's going to take that much time, but when we say that, it's not a reference, mathematical reference of sorts. Let me put this into perspective. What you just said about the utility of the NFTs, there's this project, I think I can say names, right? NFT Wars, Japanese. They take the NFT who has no practical usage except you're just owning an image or whatever it represents to you, and actually adding some elements that allow that NFT to be played seamlessly, like a layer of sorts, against other NFTs, and that's already being done. Okay, so there's many small time achievements that are being done all over the place. But I think the key word here, or well, the first step is actually collaborating. That's it. We start, things will happen. Like a neural network, the more, the merrier. Now, as for control, Louis XIV, the French king said, laissez faire, laissez passer. The less you control, the better. And then when it is sustainable or becomes a little bit out of control, then you try to put in some measures. It is healthier like that. This has been tested or tried out over the course of centuries. It doesn't mean it's the best or the worst. There's no right or wrong. But I think this is so fresh and so young. We're really at the beginning. So let it breathe a little bit, and then we try and create rules. Let me give a side example. In Thailand, you can transfer between banks. There's no fees. Anyone can create a QR code reference on the spot. You don't need a TPA. I think in the West we're a little bit I'm not in the West anymore for a long time, but people are used to being charged for services that we don't quite understand. From Portugal, which is when I was born, if I transfer money to another bank account on Friday, they will hold it for the weekend. I think these are the things that we accepted and we shouldn't. We could try and change that, or instead of changing what is, let's try and do what is not yet and define it differently, or it would just be a replica. I'm also a big talker, so forgive me. Let me just do here a collage, okay? Everybody's talking about gaming on Web3, Web2, all these labels, right? I just see that AAA, whatever that means, and I know exactly what it means, companies entering Web3. I am not sure the Web2 companies that are AAA will make the Web a 3. What I've been talking these past couple of weeks is it's more likely to be a Web 2.3 than a 3 itself. It's better break it down and have the opportunity now to do mistakes. When I mean mistakes, it's just to try out things and see what works. Does it make sense putting our God character with a cute cat? Maybe not, but who's me to say it doesn't make sense? You see, it all depends on what you want to do and why. Now, we're kind of free to do whatever we want, so why don't we? Let's do the mistakes before the AAAs come, right? And they say, we're not going. They're already doing things underneath the table. Just wait for it. They have more money, they have more power, they have more strength, and all the small projects, if they don't really have their moment, they will never have. And it's then again a repetition of what? Same control. Like they say in Thailand, same but different. If you know what I mean. I don't know what you think, but yeah.
Well,
Please add.
so just in the interest of time, I wanted to start moving on to individual questions here. Actually, this has been a really great discussion. But you see, you didn't get a chance to contribute. I know we got very far away from the initial question that we asked, but if you had any thoughts on either the initial question or anything that was said, would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I was thinking like e-commerce would be great to have in the metaverse, because we could have, like a virtual fitting room to try on wearables and clothing and shoes, and there are different stores and brands in the virtual space that we could explore. And then, as a result, then we could ignore kind of like a location problem, and then being able to try on everything and purchase the next second after we try them on, and then get the products to our storefront very fast. And I think it's pretty efficient, if effective when it comes to saving time. So I think this is pretty much what I have for, for something that I want to, that experience from Web 2 can be transferred to Web 3.
Love it. I think it's a really, really cool idea. I would love to see that happen. I don't
Yeah.
really love going into physical stores and shopping that much. It'd be nice to be able to do that at home.
Can I ask you something, you see? So you're talking about the logistics aspect of it. I mean, you're saying it from an individual perspective, but it's like in logistics being a little bit Web3 and, revolutionizing how things are done, parcel moving and such and such. That's what you also meant, right? Not just from the consumer perspective, because this is obviously beneficial, but for that to happen, there needs to be a lot happening in the background, and some of these structures are companies that are old school. You know what I mean? I think that's the tricky part. It's not the idea is amazing. It's that those who can actually implement it, they don't even use computers like we do. You see, so they're not as in touch with these realities. So again, what Prajal was saying, it's education. I think people need to be a little bit more aware of what this represents and what we can do with it. And I think that's key for the future potential of many implementations of blockchain technology.
Awesome. So let's move on to our individual questions here. So the first one actually is for you, C. So Swaga calls itself a phygital fashion metaverse. And so you got into this a little bit in your intro, but I was curious if you could explain a little bit more how Swaga is bridging and connecting the physical and digital worlds through all the things that you're building.
Yeah, sure. So, because Onimaru is our original fashion IP, right? It's a digital life form that lives in metaverse and also provides the energy and also electricity for the Swagger metaverse to function smoothly. Actually, Onimaru already comes to the real world because we had an offline exhibition event last year in April in Tokyo. And then we collaborated with 30 Japanese artists, and each one of them created as a unique, one-of-a-kind physical Onimaru. And then we exhibited those 30 artwork in the venue there. And also we had a few physical Genesis ones, Onimaru, as giveaways for our holders that attended and supported the event. And also we have produced around like 1,200 pieces of physical Onimarus that already shipped out, like some part of it already shipped out to some of our OG holders. And we also produced a physical SBT crystal souvenir to some of the big holders, just to give back to the communities, because a lot of our NFT, like Onimaru NFT holders, complimented the appearance, liked the looks of the Onimaru, so they wanted the physical one as well. It has been a very long time, and so the OG holders and also big holders have been with us, so we wanted to give back to them, so we produced those physical ones, and so that they would be having both the NFT and also its corresponding physical figure. And this year we actually been to 3 conferences, and for each event we're giving away a couple, like physical Onimaru as lottery prizes. And we are also planning to produce some swags in the future, for example, t-shirts, socks, or hats when we're setting up the booth, and then like just for giveaways for some of the participants. And also, in addition, we are now in talks with some Web2 brands in Japan, because we're a Japanese project, right? And then we do have a lot of connections. One of our core team member, he's really diving into the fashion entertainment industry for a long time. So he's been able to give us a lot of connections in the Japanese market in Web2, like brands and IPs. So we wanted to talk to them, talk to some of the Web2 brands, and then to hopefully that we can make some merchandise together.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Yusi. Very exciting stuff that you guys are working on. I'm definitely looking forward to following it a little more closely going forward. So the next individual question is to Daniel. So Battle of Gods is a bi-directional board-to-block NFT game. So I was wondering if you could kind of break down what exactly that means and how you're actually connecting the physical board game to the NFTs that you're creating to create a seamless gameplay experience.
Sure. Glad you asked. So, from the inception of Battle of Gods, Frog Dog Games launched Under Gods. So, we considered 3 years ago, when we started developing the game, that it would be cool to have the NFTs on the table and use them as an evolving character. So, the only blockchain technology that actually has this is Phantasmal blockchain, because they have smart NFTs that can nest NFTs inside another NFT and so on. So this is some aspect that makes it a simple thing to incorporate, and allows our avatar, because we are humans, recruiting gods to save the forgotten gods, and in the process we will be gods ourselves. So that's one of the key aspects of our game, is making the players part of the IP. This means doing the profile picture NFT, getting our amazing talented artists to do them in the form of a character that can later be organized in guilds and playing against each other. So that's one aspect. The other thing is, how do we, if the bridge goes both ways, what's on the other side? Well, I think one of the problems with digital art or NFTs is the fungibility of that exactly. So we said, why don't we match the physical card numbers to the minting of the NFTs? So we're not going to be printing / minting 6 million. It follows this mathematical structure of rarity, mythical, epic, rare cards, and so on. But the idea is, whenever you can combine God character with its weapon, and you get the full mythology, we will send for free a numbered physical card that you can play against another player who has the same physical card. So this is how we kind of try to do the connection between both sides, by matching the minting with the printing, let's say. I'm not sure that answers the question, but I can expand more. I just don't want to take too much time.
No, that answers the question. I think that's a really creative way of accomplishing that, and I think it's a little different than a lot of other projects have done in terms of doing physical to digital or digital to physical. So thank you for sharing.
Can I say something else? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure.
This is like being developed as it is, and I think it's okay for me to talk about it, because it's going to be a reality. Now, we're used to playing Magic the Gathering, because I'm that old, or Pokemon, for those who are younger. Now, imagine we can have some sort of augmented reality with you. Through your mobile, you can see the character in a 3D model, which could be just standalone image, but it could be having movements, attack, defense, walking, winning, getting, dying, or getting forgotten in this case, because gods don't die. Everybody should know that. So we can bring that level of interaction through a physical card, which will have, augmented reality component. I think it's small steps, baby steps, that allow us to further continue in this path of, let's try this out, right? And UC said that she already has, and you can just really move one your digital identity from one place to the other. So I mean, I think we're just doing this by ourselves. But if we really started opening up a little bit, I was like I said in Singapore last week, and Reneverse were have this idea of getting the assets that they can allow other game developers to use in their own games. So if we allowed our images and items, 3D or 2D, it doesn't matter. They could be incorporated with other games. So they're like a middleman or middlewoman, so nobody gets upset. That allows the passage of one chain, one verse to another in a seamless kind of way. I think that's cool, and I'm very glad that I met him, and they invited me to give a small presentation. But I think it's things like this that gives me a sense of optimism because I'm optimist by nature, and I just see bright things ahead. I mean, call me lunatic, but I don't mind. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think I grew up playing Magic the Gathering as well, and I think that even if we take Web3 out of the equation, the future of collectible card games, once we have better hardware for AR, which I think is probably only 2 to 5 years away, where we have more seamless AR integration, I think you're going to see all of those major companies starting to add layers upon existing assets, right? Even going back in time and having just the ability to scan a card and like you said, the model pop up, I think is kind of a low hanging fruit for some of these bigger studios, especially when you're talking about Wizards or something like that, where they have the production capabilities to do something like that. I'm actually, when we go back to the Web3 side of things, I think it's one of the more innovative use cases of physical, trading cards to have a digital twin essentially that can evolve. I actually just recently we were at a blockchain event in Switzerland last week, and I was introduced to another project that's doing something very similar. That with digital and physical trading cards with characters that are projected in AR. And I think that's just a very interesting use case of the technology and a way of combining physical and digital that I think is pretty interesting. I think one of the bigger problems that need to be solved there are the down chain issues, right? What happens when you trade the physical or sell the physical? How do you keep the digital with the physical? And I think there's some pretty innovative technologies that are being worked on for that. But I think that that's going to be a very big emerging use case of not just NFTs, but the combination between digital and physical. I'm super excited for AR, and it's everything it's going to bring to the collectible space.
Can I add something quickly? Big shout out to Adult Fantasy and Todd. They have this technology which we want to incorporate in our game. This is super cool. NFT that degrades over the course of time. So we're talking digitally a degradation. For me, an avid comic book collector, fumetti, manga, all, Franco-Belgium, all that. Sometimes having the physical aspect allows an emotional connection, right? An old book is worth more for me than a young, sorry, not young, a fresh printed book. So imagine, in our case, we have the old gods. Of course, they have to have this old paper look, digitally speaking, of course. And imagine they evolve over the course of time. So when we get like a silver age or a golden age, which will be different waves or different printing or different minting, over the course of time, them becoming more rare digitally. Think about that. And I mean, can you imagine the applications? I see many. For my game, it's immediate. So I just want to put the idea there. Thanks.
Totally. Yeah, big fans of adult fantasy and Todd. He's building some really really cool stuff. So fun show. Next question is for you. So Project Lambo is focused on building a balanced game experience with positive social vision, which is one of the things you mentioned in your intro. You're doing things like mental health services, anti-bullying measures, education. I think it's so important. We really need that in this space. So why did you guys decide to actually go that route? And what impact are you hoping that's going to have on gamers?
Thank you. Yeah, so this is very, very close to my heart. Okay, the main reason for it is my daughter. Okay, the reason for that is she was suffering from bullying at school, and off the back of that, which is terrible for any father to have to deal with anyway, it was the impact when she came home and wanted to play her two favorite video games, which at the time were Fortnite. For quite some time. Very
Sorry to interrupt you. It looks like we're losing you again. If you wanna
Can you hear
jump
me
out
okay?
and jump in real quick.
Can you
Yeah,
hear me
maybe
okay
mute and
now?
unmute. Yeah, it's a little choppy. I was waiting to see if it would come back, but maybe just rewind 30 seconds and we'll try again.
Sure. No. Just let me know if you guys can hear me at any point. But my daughter, okay, my daughter was suffering from bullying at school, and as a result of that, which is horrible for any parent, when she was coming home and wanted to play her favorite video games, which were Roblox and Fortnite, she was literally getting racism. She was getting bullied. It really affected her mental health. And as a result, we just decided this is not something that can continue to happen. And I just want to check because reconnecting. Can you guys hear me?
We're here. We're hearing you. It's a little choppy at parts, but I heard a lot of it. Hopefully, everybody else heard a lot of it too.
Right. Sorry.
It's a little choppy though.
Right. So, but basically, my daughter was suffering from bullying. Okay. And I wanted to try to create a space that's safe, that's got the same magic that I felt while being a gamer growing up myself, where everything was safe. My friends would come and knock my door. They would all have their controllers. We would plug them in, play Super Nintendo, and everything was fine. And then they'd go home. That's not the world we live in today. And sometimes people think that their kids are absolutely fine upstairs with their headset on in their bedroom on their own. It's not always the case, and they don't share a lot of this information with their parents or their friends. So, seeing this rise of cyberbullying and mental health issues among young people, especially gamers, we felt a moral obligation to take action on it. So Project Lambo for us, it's not just another game. Okay, of course we want to produce an amazing game, great gameplay, great story, and earning capabilities, all the great stuff that Web3 can bring. But we want to actually create a safe haven and use the technology that's out there to educate, improve, and make sure that there is something safe. We want to set a new industry standard. We want to make gaming a source of joy and personal growth, not stress and toxicity. We truly believe that gaming should be a force for good. And Project Lambo, what we're trying to do here is give gamers access to resources that they might not seek out otherwise. And these are things like mental health support and also making sure that there's a key environment that feels like a Web2 experience that would never treat them the way a Web2 experience currently does. And that's where using ChatGPT's AI with their API, we're able to bring NPC characters in, have a bustling environment, which I feel is missing massively in metaverses. And they're never going to be mean to you. They're not going to be racist to you. They're not going to be horrible to you. They could even help you with your homework. This is the kind of world that we're trying to build with our gaming ecosystem. We want people to feel comfortable, and long term, we hope to see a marked decrease in instances of online harassment and an improvement in overall mental well-being among our user base. That's what's critical for us.
Love that. Yeah, you guys are building something very special. Very much looking forward to seeing what you guys are gonna be building with that, and I'm looking forward to playing it. So our last individual question is to our very own Nick. So Satoshi's Legions Alpha Phase 4 is set to release this week. Can you tell us a little bit about, what are some of the new features that players are going to be able to expect to see in Phase 4?
Yeah, we're excited actually. Before we jumped on, we were just fixing a few last minute bugs and trying to get everything squared away for the launch, because this one's going to be open to everybody. So that's one of the big differences. You're not going to need any kind of NFTs or anything to jump in. This is going to be our open testnet version. So anyone in here who hasn't become a part of the Satoshiverse family just because you don't have one of the NFTs or haven't been able to play, you'll be able to jump in now. So we welcome you to join for free before we go on mainnet and start our big pushes. You can kind of get some inside info, earn some cool prizes. One of the things we're going to be doing in this launch is 3 new kind of custom legendary NFTs. So by playing and completing the game, and completing a game in speedrun mode, which you can only unlock after beating the game, the prize for anyone who does it is going to be one of 3, limited edition Satoshi legendary weapons. So these are going to be, kind of those alpha items that we hope years from now will be the ones that kind of say, I was there, when it all started. So we definitely encourage people to jump in and join, and try it out and try to get as far as you can. It's free to play, free to join, free to download. It's a PC-based game, so you do need a bit of a decent PC to play it currently. We have different modes that can accommodate different settings and different requirements, but you will need a PC to play it. But yeah, what else is in it? So one of my favorite things actually is the avatar creator, and I won't go too deep into it because I want people to experience it and play around with it. But one of the things we've been working on is really trying to give people that sense that they have in other games of personality and the ability to customize things. So we built out this custom avatar creator that'll allow you to create the avatar that you want to take into the outskirts in battle. So real excited about that. We have 2 new modes. We have our campaign mode and our speedrun mode. The campaign mode is kind of what it sounds like. It's a more of a progressive-based approach. So we've always talked about the game as a hybrid between a roguelike and an RPG. If you don't know what a roguelike is, it's games like Hades, where you always begin at the beginning and you progress further and further and further and further deeper into a story or into a game progression. But then we have a lot of RPG elements as well, with the character progression being stored in the NFTs and items that you can unlock and get as you go and upgrade and all the cool stuff you would expect from an RPG. And so what we did was we combined those 2 theories, but now what we have is our campaign mode, which plays a little bit more like an RPG in that there's save points at different points of the game, but unlike an RPG, the way it's balanced is such that if you start from the beginning, kind of the more traditional approach to a roguelike, you're going to have advantages and you're going to be able to progress further into the story than if you start at the save point. So there's kind of this scaling up that happens, but it also prevents you from being overpowered to a point where you don't need those early upgrades. So there's that, but then there is also the speedrun mode, which is kind of our more conventional roguelike, where every time you play, you're going to have a different experience because the maps are programmatically generated. Every run is going to feel different. Every time there's a little bit of luck and a little bit of skill that goes into that time. And so we have a leaderboard, and that's what's going to determine the prizes for the end of the game. And then let's see, we have a brand new DApp that we are going to be releasing. That DApp controls a lot of the blockchain functionality currently. We're looking and working hard to get a lot of that stuff in the game now with some of our partners. But right now it's all being handled through the DApp. So we have a completely reskinned DApp that's going to have more functionality, allow you to do a lot more cool stuff with your items. Trying to think if I missed anything. If I did, we'll have an announcement very soon. Like I mentioned, we'll be announcing this soon, but we're going to be announcing the winners of phase 3 of the leaderboard. Big shout out to Fiddy, who pulled it off and won in phase 3 with an incredible time that even I couldn't beat. So really, really huge props to you on that great time. We'll have the rest of the leaderboard today, and then the plan is in the next couple days, likely Thursday, we're going to push the build. Like I mentioned, we had a few bugs that were making things not as pleasant as we'd like them to be. You know, it wasn't anything that was going to break the game, but we want to fix these things before pushing it. We want to make sure people are having a good experience. So we're going to fix up those bugs, and we're going to push the game, if all goes well, on Thursday. But really excited. We're going to be doing a bunch of outreach and getting a bunch more people into the game now that there's nothing preventing people from joining. So real excited to release that and hear what everybody thinks.
Awesome. Some very, very cool alpha for everyone. So we're excited for everyone to get a chance to actually play the game. So real quick before we sign off here, we're going to announce the winner of our giveaway. So this week we are giving away a rare 8mo Army collectible trading card. And the winner is Mr. Console. Mr. Console has spoken in our spaces before. Very familiar with Mr. Console. Congratulations. Send Satoshiverse a DM, and we'll make sure to get you your prize. And also, I saw that you DM'd me. I've been very busy, and I'll get back to you very soon. I'll hand it back to Nick to close us out.
Yeah, no, what a great conversation. I really, as always, kind of took some turns in unexpected directions, but that's what makes this fun. And I think that the way that this space is going to evolve is kind of this type of thought leadership and sharing ideas. So a big thank you to the panelists, everybody who came on today. This is kind of my way. I spend so much time either at conferences or in the trenches developing the game and the project that sometimes it's hard for me to poke up and see all the other great things that are happening. So between this and going to the conferences, it's always refreshing to hear about the great work that you're all doing, and all the projects here are no exception to that. Really, really love all the work that you guys are doing. So thank you for joining. Thank you to everyone who joined live. It's always nice to see. We usually get a bunch of people who watch the recorded version, and that's cool. We love you guys. But always nice to see people here joining us in the live version. That's why we do the giveaway, just to incentivize it a little bit, but always appreciative of the people who join. Again, I'll stop talking so that everybody else can kind of say a few last words if they'd like, and then we'll sign off. But if you want to learn more about the Satoshiverse, check out the pinned tweet. Please do go and follow all the projects here, everyone who took their time to speak. We really appreciate it. And yeah, have a great week, and we'll be back next week with another great panel. So if anyone would like to say anything before we sign off, please feel free, and then we'll close the spaces. Thanks again.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having the opportunity to speak here and speak with another audience. Really appreciate that. I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. All of the speakers that have been on today, you're all building fantastic things. Please continue to do that. Without you guys, this space doesn't exist. And yeah, thank you. Would love to come on again at another time.
Yeah. Thank you, Satoshiverse and Polo, for inviting me here. And it's really my pleasure to talk to, all of the panelists here. And maybe we can do it again next time.
Well, I think everybody already said what I'm just repeating. So appreciate the invite. I already follow the other projects. Satoshi, just tell me when you want to do the collab. DM, PV, whatever you want. Let's get that in the talks. See if we can get something going. I think if we reach out, we might touch someone else, and that's how magic happens. Godspeed. That's how I like to finish. Take care, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Sounds great. Thank you, everyone. And we'll definitely reach out and see what we could do with all these projects to collaborate. We're huge fans. So we'll talk to you all soon. Thank you. And we'll be signing off now. Take care.